What's going on, guys? Welcome to Steve Does Stuff. I'm Steve, and today we're going to be doing some truck camper stuff. So this is my 2016 GMC Canyon that I'm turning into a truck camper. We put the cap on it, we built the platforms that work, but now it is time to address an issue that is probably going to come up, and that is weight. I don't entirely know what the payload on these are, but this cap weighs about 200 pounds. The deck in the back, I'm estimating at about 200 pounds because it's 3/4 inch plywood. You throw another 200 pounds of gear on there, plus the roof racks, whichever, it's squatting a little bit more than it should. I noticed it immediately when I put the cap on, and then again when I put the bed in the back. So what are we going to do about it? We're going to be putting on the Firestone Sport-Rite kits for the 2015 Up Canyon Colorados. So we got our kit all laid out here, everything that it's come with, airlines, bags, hardware, all of these kind of push to connect fittings. First thing we got to do with the truck is drop the spare tire, get under it, and see what we're looking at. Must be higher. So some great news for my brake job is I still have brakes. Here is where we are going to be installing our air springs. Now you may notice these springs kind of start and then come back up and then go back down. These are bent. It's apparently a pretty common problem with these trucks, but hoping the air springs can kind of alleviate some of that, because that is definitely contributing to the sag. I've been staring at these instructions for a little while. I'm thinking that it's going to go on something like that, which when it's on the truck is going to look something like that. So I'm going to take it back and try and do some pre-assembly on this where it's actually put together properly. For assembly on the bracket, we just got a single one of these little guys that goes into the very bottom. So single one to locate that. Flip this guy over, and now we have to put our top bracket in place. Finger tight them onto there. Top one is going to need to be clocked. So if you think this is going to be the left-hand side, the wheel is going to be this way. We want to try and make sure this stays on the outside. These seem to fit in odd ways, so it always takes a bit of finessing. 7/32 bolts on the top. These come with a bit of Loctite on them. I meant to go out and buy a Loctite, but everything is still closed, and it's about a 4-day wait for anything curbside. So let's see how good Firestone's Loctite is. Having my truck being oil sprayed, there's so much stuff on it. I've just been putting a little piece of tape over it to stop getting a bunch of dirt in the bags. I have this side bag in here. It's all finger tight, driver's side. We have a bit more going on here. Some very serious differences. As you can see, my leaf spring on driver's side, probably with the additional weight of the gas tank, there's a 2.5 finger gap between jounce and the jounce stop. We've also got these lovely lines. So these are parking brake lines. We got this bracket here. Stuff is definitely happening, versus the passenger side, which is a 3.5 finger gap. Doesn't have any of this, nonsense going on up here. And I would say our leaf spring is medium terrible versus extra terrible on the driver's side. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off, which will allow me to kind of move some of these brakes around. Hopefully that'll give me some clarity on how I'm supposed to manage these. I do not know what I'm going to do about this one. This spring is quite broken. Come on out. Okay, so I kind of jammed this bag in here, and I'd say things are lining up better. Maybe zip tying this in here behind the bag so it's not rubbing on it is going to be pretty key. Parking brake cable for driver's side has been kind of reallocated up here. Oh boy. And now I'm going to start trying to get this top plate on here and loosely finger tight it in. So I had to do this on the other one, but didn't have the heart to film it. This time we're going for it. Basically what's happening right now is I can't see up into here, and there is a body control harness that runs on the inside of this rail, as well as a fuel line from the tank. All of that is compounded by the fact that the tank is extremely close to this frame rail. So I think what I'm going to do is take off this inner fender liner. Being able to reach through the top, we're still going to have a little bit better access than what we have right now, so I am going to take this out, which looks like it is a number of these tiny little Torx head screws. 10 screws and 2 plastic pop rivets later, this thing's finally ready to come out. Well, I've never seen this truck with the fender liners off. It's a nice collection of dirt back there. I already see part of the problem in here. Body control harness, fuel lines, like they're all in there. This is what it looks like on the inside. We're very gently gonna start to work these through. I want this side of the bolt down, so any lines next to it aren't rubbing against threads. So to do that, you kind of have to half insert the bolt into the plate, pull it out so it can make the transition. Hold the plate in, tip it up, just so it's like that, and then slide that bolt in there. So then these threads are hopefully in through here and not rubbing up against anything. So that should line it up nicely. I'll just continue this trend of kind of upside down on this side. All right, it is many hours later, still driver's side. So what I've done is essentially this right here is the body control harness. This is what I thought a fuel line was, is actually the vent tube for the differential. It goes all the way over there and pops off right over there. So it's not that big of a deal, but essentially I broke off the tabs that hold it tight against the frame, have run the body control harness totally outside of this because I didn't want it to get pinched between these bolts, which is the inside, and the frame. I moved this out for the very back one and then inside on the front one, which gives us basically a better place to mount it. This has taken, no bullshit, probably an hour to fart around with. Top plate bolted in place. These torqued to spec. Still got to put the bottom carriage bolts on here. Have the parking brake cable retainer back in place for the driver's side only. Passenger side, I needed to make sure it had room between the bag and the actual tank in the line. I didn't want to rub it against the bag because that's a great way for it to pop the bag. I'm going to put these 2 bottom bolts on that are basically just a carriage bolts that hold it on with, I had the parts here somewhere, that was a long time ago. Look, I don't know, we're gonna find them, we're gonna put these guys on, and then this side is like done. We're gonna insert the line into the top and start running them towards the back. So the idea is, as common on these ones, is we're gonna be pulling these plate bolts out and replacing them with the Schrader valves for driver's side, passenger side. Moment of truth. We're going to be removing these, and then this is the inflator for the bag. Oh, perfect. I'm going to do it pretty light because I don't want to wreck any of the seals in there. These are push to connect fittings. They said they can be easily removed. If you deflate them down and then push this collar, you can see it kind of pops out and pops back in. Push that in towards the body and gently pull it out when there's no pressure in there. It will work. I'm going to spread this line out, figure out where the halfway point is, cut it, and then start running it to either side of the truck. Doesn't get much more high-tech than this to string out some airline. So, tin snips are apparently good for this. Factory end. I'm going to say we want to come at it like that, and firm push. Apparently that's all it takes. Okay, so this is where we're at so far. So we're out of the top, in through the frame rail, and then we meet up with the body harness that goes to the back. And I just kind of made it follow along, back up in through here. I want to make sure we're keeping this area clear for the spare tire, so ran it nice up and above, and then have it running out here. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that liner back on, and then see how this makes it sit. So at the back here, I am going to be replacing these holes with this little guy right here. So these are going to stick out the back like that. Obviously this whole back would be behind there. Fire in the hole. So with this back drilled out, now our biggest issue is we have this wiring harness that is kind of in place. We need space to get the back of the Schrader valve for the tubes in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these two little ties and pull this down out of the way so the valves will run on top of it. So it is an undetermined amount of time later. I'm about to do my pre-checks on it. I want to take you guys through the overall system. So passenger side was mounted up. Realized I may have flipped the back bracket for the drinker side, but this guy is all done. There's no pressure in the bag. I use the I guess friction things to make sure it doesn't rub through the line here. I can run it inside the frame rail. So just on the inside, trying to keep it away from this exhaust. Comes around to the top, does a little bit of a loop-de-loop, and then I have both of my fill nozzles have replaced my license plate screws. So this was a little bit more difficult than I originally thought. You can see there is a bit of a ledge right here, and the pipe was contacting it constantly, so I had to persuade it a little bit. Let's come over here to the driver's side. This one's a little bit different. This one kind of pulls out from behind here. I have it zip tied so it's not rubbing on the frame or anything. Cut out the fender liner just so it has some good space. I've run the parking brake cable zip tied to the tank mount so it's not rubbing on the tank and it's not rubbing on the back of this shock either, which is good. I came up, even though driver's side was a bit more of a bugger for this vent line for the differential as well as the parking brake lines. This one was pretty simple. I just kind of followed the body harness all the way back, up and down. Again, I wanted to keep this area super clean because this is where the spare tire is going. And again, had to get creative and massage that area. Now it is time to put some air in these babies, 75 pounds, and see what happens. So the checking procedure is 75 pounds in there, spray them with water, see if they're leaking anywhere. This is driver's side first. No leaks so far. It's very good. Nothing. Drinker side. Gonna do everything, make sure I'm not missing anything. Make sure the Schrader valve isn't leaking. Oh yeah. Those things are holding air. That's great. They're both at above 65 pounds. Based on how bent my driver's side leaf spring is, I'm probably gonna be keeping more pressure in that side than the other one. We'll do a little compare test of the height differences on them. I'm just gonna slap the wheels back on super quick. For a final test. Driver rear 34.5, driver front about 34.5, passenger 34.5, passenger rear is 36. I'm gonna go ahead and inflate these bags, see what it brings it up to. Driver side 40 pounds. Got up our driver's side just over an inch. Maintained our front, still about, ooh, that's hard to see. Still about 34.5, still 34.5 front passenger. 37 here. I think we might have a bit of an issue on our hands. Sitting higher than it used to, which is exactly what it needed to do. So that's gonna do it for this episode of Steve Does Stuff. Truck is officially on air ride now. Haven't driven it, even a foot to see what it feels like. We're just outside of a month and a half of leaving on our trip, so I wanted to get some, a few thousand K on them to make sure they're good so they don't become an issue out on the road. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.